Well, snowflakes still flying in areas east of Highway 65. We've had this persistent area of snow that extended from Warsaw all the way southeast down through maybe Marshfield and Ava and east through Kabul into the West Plains area. It looks like that snow now beginning to come to an end, still holding on to cloudy skies. We've got some starshine right now in western Missouri and northwest Arkansas, at least for the time being. Temperatures are currently in the 20s east to low 30s west, and we've still got some pretty brutal wind chills out there with the gusty winds continuing into the overnight hours. Wind chill of 10 at this hour in Raleigh. Here's a look at Tuesday's forecast. I think we wake up to mainly cloudy skies, but we should see things transition over to a more sunny pattern for the afternoon hours. Highs a little over freezing. Wind chills will be in the teens and low 20s throughout the day. We'll shake off some of this cold later this week. More on that coming up. Color 10 News at 10 starts now.
You're watching Color 10 News at 10 in high definition.
Greene County detectives spent much of the afternoon investigating the death of a 26-year-old woman in the northeastern part of the county. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Keelman.
Good to have you along here at 10. Once again, everybody, I'm David Oliver. Deputies have yet to give us the name of the person killed, but we do know one person is in custody. Our Brett Martin has been following this developing story. He's here now with more on the timeline for this deadly investigation. Brett?
Hey, David and Jennifer, the shooting happened in rural part of the county, and today leading to many heads turning and wondering what happened out in the middle of nowhere. While dozens of Greene County deputies investigate a deadly shooting, William Bounds wonders what led up to the possible murder of a 26-year-old woman.
It's not typical at all. This is a very quiet neighborhood, and we all get along just fine.
Bounds says it's shocking for his neighborhood.
This is a very isolated type of incident. We have no problems out here at all. It's just a farm community
where everyone looks out for everyone.
Most of us have lived here for several years. I've lived here for 33 years.
No one was available for an on-camera interview from the sheriff's office, but in a statement, deputies were called to the 4600 block of East Farm Road 48 just before 1 o'clock and found a woman shot. 2 hours later, a 37-year-old man was taken into custody miles away in Springfield.
I haven't, as far as close contact, I just wave at them and going down the road.
Bounds says he's seen deputies at the home before.
They have had problems there before. I've seen your emergency vehicles there before.
While it's troubling, he has some peace of mind it wasn't a random shooting near his front door.
I have no fears of any kind as far as it's concerned.
And schools in Fairgrove were briefly put on lockdown while law enforcement searched for the suspect. The Sheriff's Department spokesperson tells me they will provide as an update to the investigation whenever they have new information.
All right, Brett Martin tonight, thank you. New at 10, a Nixa police officer is back on the job tonight after firing his gun during a deadly incident. Last November, Corporal Ben Kaufman was placed on paid leave for firing his weapon during a shootout north of the square in Ozark, where Summer Spear was killed at a bail bond business. Corporal Kaufman was helping Ozark police with a call for help. Today, Nixa police announced that after an internal investigation and conferring with the Highway Patrol that Corporal Kaufman returned to active duty. Nixa police are still awaiting the final results of the Highway Patrol investigation.
A proposal now to repeal the death penalty was talked about this afternoon up in the state Senate, but for right now, nothing was decided. Those for the repeal say the Republican-sponsored proposal is not an effective deterrent to murder, and that money could be spent better elsewhere, they say. A repeal is supported by some Democrats and some Republicans, but it's considered unlikely to reach the governor's desk. Jay Nixon supports the death penalty.
Several departments struggled for hours to keep a barn fire under control tonight in Greene County. It happened off of Farm Road 170 east of Springfield, and fire crews say hay bales in the back of the barn were on fire, and they had to move all of the bales, not in flames, outside just to get back there. Now, right now, they're still trying to keep the steel inside the barn cool as they let the remaining bales inside burn out. There is a home nearby, but no injuries have been reported at this time.
The Salvation Army is opening its doors once again in response to tonight's extremely cold conditions, and it could be seeing a few more extra visitors than it's used to. Our Colin Lingo is live outside the Salvation Army's Emergency Overnight Warming Center tonight with more information for us on what is required of people who want to stay the night there. Colin?
That's right, guys. Tonight is actually the first of 2 nights that the center will be open. They will also be open tomorrow night due to what is nothing short of dangerously cold weather. For 10 years now, the Salvation Army has been opening its doors during times of extreme cold. But with the recent evacuation of homeless camps across the area, it's possible that the warming center may see even more people than it has during the other 8 days it's been open this year. But Jeff Smith with the Salvation Army says there's no guarantee that the camp evacuations will produce more visitors. He says that even if there were homeless camps remaining in the city, he thinks those people would need better protection from such extreme conditions.
So we could see an influx tonight based on the fact that the homeless camps have been shut down. I'm not sure. They might have found another place to go. We don't know yet. That remains to be seen. Yeah. But, you know, oftentimes when it's 5-degree wind chill or 7, it's a lot different than 14 or even 12. And so whether you're sleeping outside in a homeless camp or not, 5 degrees is cold.
Now, the center does have a few rules. The warming center does not allow pets to come in, and those visitors with a felony warrant will not be allowed to sleep in the cot area. They are also asking for a photo ID when you show up here, but even those who do not bring a photo ID or do have a felony warrant will not be turned away. They'll just ask to be staying here in the lobby, where it's actually quite warm at 75 degrees. Reporting live in Springfield, I'm Colin Lingo, Color 10 News, OzarksFirst.com.
All right, Colin, thank you. In tonight's political coverage, as the hours tick down until the first presidential primary in the nation, Donald Trump is going for the jugular, specifically toward Jeb Bush. Trump and Bush exchanged blows today at campaign stops on Twitter as well. Trump writing, "Bush is a pathetic figure," and Bush responded, "Trump, you aren't just a loser, you are a liar and a whiner." The latest CNN poll shows Trump topping the Republican field with Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz rounding out the top 3. On the Democratic side, polls continue to show Bernie Sanders with a commanding lead over Hillary Clinton. Today, she enlisted the help of her husband, who made multiple campaign stops for her as well.
Meanwhile, former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg says tonight he is considering a run himself for the presidency this year. Speaking to the Financial Times, Bloomberg says he is considering all options when it comes to the presidency. The media mogul says he's listening now to what the current candidates are saying and also what voters are currently doing. Bloomberg admits he would have to start getting his name on ballots by early March to stage a serious campaign, and this now is the first time Bloomberg has openly talked about a possible presidential bid sometime this year.
Coming up, we take a look at the devastating effects of the Manhattan Project here in Missouri.
But yet in Japan, they know the role that we played, and they know what sits out at our airport.
Tonight, part 1 of our series on why nuclear waste from the World War II era is still creating problems for thousands of Missourians. It's up next. Around the region on your News at 10 tonight, thousands of Missourians are paying the price right now for their hometown's role in producing the atomic bombs.
President Harry Truman, a Missouri native, decided to drop those bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki 4 months into his presidency in 1945. He would later say he never lost a wink of sleep over that decision.
Color 10's Nick Thompson learned the radioactive byproduct from those weapons has become a public health and environmental hassle in the St. Louis area. Nick?
Well, David and Jennifer, in Chicago in 1942, scientists watched the world's first self-sustaining nuclear reaction, made possible with uranium enriched at a factory near downtown St. Louis. The Manhattan Project taught scientists much of what they know today about atomic weapons, but back then they didn't know what they do now about the radioactive waste left behind. In the late 1930s, Albert Einstein further stoked the fear of the U.S. and its allies as their militaries prepared to push back against German aggression. He told President Roosevelt German scientists had learned to split a uranium atom. The federal government soon began the top-secret Manhattan Project to develop nuclear weapons before the Germans could. Springfield native Robert Moon was a University of Chicago physicist and a key player in the Manhattan Project. Chemist Edward Mallinckrodt of St. Louis asked Washington to give him the contract to enrich uranium from the Belgian Congo.
And then Mallinckrodt comes along and says, yes, we will do it. We'll do it in St. Louis. And Mallinckrodt said, we don't want to have any of the liability. And the U.S. government said, you won't, but we will own all of this uranium.
State Senator Maria Chappelle-Nadal will be the first to tell you she's not a scientific expert. But she's done hours of homework and held dozens of town halls in her North St. Louis County district to teach her constituents the truth about where they live.
In the 1950s, there was a St. Louis County, but it was mostly farmland, and the haulers were paid by the loads that they were able to get rid of. So the more radioactive waste they were able to get rid of, the more they got paid, not knowing that there was an impact.
The Mallinckrodt Chemical Company enriched uranium here in downtown St. Louis, and when they ran out of room, they started shipping it here to a 20-acre plot of land north of the St. Louis airport. Now, in the early 60s, a contractor bought that waste from the airport, began extracting minerals from it, and then left the residue behind here at Laddie Avenue in Hazelwood. And most of that material eventually made its way west to Colorado. About 9,000 tons of it was illegally dumped here in the early 70s in Westlake landfill.
They had mountains of it. They had enough waste to fill our Busch Stadium to the top. I mean, that's how much waste was left over. I don't think they realized that they would have so much of it.
Dawn Chapman helped form the advocacy organization Just Moms STL when she discovered the radioactive waste buried in Westlake landfill is about 2 miles from her home.
Some of the people that in their testimony to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission when this was dumped at Westlake, one person commented and said this just looked like rich topsoil. It looked like clean fill dirt.
Chapman tracks how government agencies are responding to the landfill situation. She's also aware of a cluster of cancers and other diseases North County residents believe they can trace to their upbringing in the Coldwater Creek watershed.
We're all connected in that we're part of the ugly Manhattan Project family tree, if that makes any sense. We're all part of this tree. We have a branch. They have a branch.
Chapman knows St. Louis is not alone in dealing with the consequences of the world's first atomic weapons. But there are few places on the planet with the types of scars St. Louis has.
I could walk 2 blocks and find somebody here that doesn't know, but yet in Japan, they know the role that we played, and they know what sits out at our airport. They know about Westlake. So it's interesting.
Tomorrow night, in part 2 of our series, we'll introduce you to some of the North County residents who came together and started tracking occurrences of disease along the Coldwater Creek watershed. In part 3, on Wednesday night, we'll explain why that material at Westlake landfill could make it into the air and expose residents to radioactive particles.
All right, Nick, thank you. Now let's head over to Jamie in the Weather Lab. Jamie, seeing cold, bitterly cold temperatures outside tonight, and the wind it's still strong.
Yeah, it's the wind that really makes it feel so cold outside tonight and will again tomorrow. And it looks like even though we're going to have opportunities to warm up some this week, cold weather will be lurking, and that will play a role in how warm we're able to get over the course of the week and into the weekend. We'll take a look at that forecast coming up next.
And now weather with Color 10 News Chief Meteorologist Jamie Warner.
Well, this past weekend was so nice. You know, temperatures were mild, the weather pattern was quiet, we had a fair amount of sunshine, and then we got to today, and here comes winter roaring in on some very strong northwest winds, and with those winds came some snow. In fact, we had snow squalls at times today. I saw one this morning looking out my front window. The snow was just coming down, I mean really hard, blown by very strong winds out of the northwest. But they didn't last very long. These snows were out, and within 20 minutes, it was back to sunshine. This evening also, we've seen an area of snow, sort of persistent area of snow from the Warsaw area down through Marshfield and east through Kabul, south down into the West Plains area. And within that corridor, we've seen some light accumulations of maybe 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. Charity Corbett of Kabul sending in this photo of earlier this evening. You can see the light snow coming down, and you can see the snow on the bench right there, and also some snow on that car top right there. So with the snow that we've had this evening east of Highway 65, there could be a few slick spots in here, so use a little bit more caution driving through there. Otherwise, it looks like the snow is now shutting down. Just some flurries now across the eastern Ozarks. Areas to the west of that line right there that extends from maybe Osceola down through Springfield and into the Yellville area. West of that line, skies have actually cleared out. For now, I do expect more cloud cover to roll in later on tonight. Temperatures range from 22 in Rolla as you get further and further northeast into the heart of that cold air mass. Range from 22 in Rolla to 31 in Joplin. And this is an example of what we're going to be looking at for much of this week and into this upcoming weekend. A wide range in temperatures across the area with the coldest readings northeast. And it's going to make for a tough temperature forecast to pin down. Right now, again, we've got this swirling area of low pressure located right about in there, and around that area of low pressure, we've got these little pockets of upper level energy helping to generate these pockets of snow showers. It looks like we're getting rid of the snow this evening, and we will get rid of the clouds for many of us on Tuesday, but we will not get rid of this cold nor this wind. I do expect, even though the winds have died down tonight, I do expect those winds to pick back up again during the day on Tuesday. Speaking of tonight, overnight tonight, I think clouds will fill back in across western Missouri down into northern Arkansas, and then clouds will gradually erode from west to east as we work from morning into the afternoon. They will be tough to clear out before the end of the day in Rolla and Salem and Eminence. So you guys may hold on to mainly cloudy skies right through sunset. The rest of the area should see a fair amount of afternoon sunshine. Temperatures tonight will bottom out in the upper teens northeast to middle 20s southwest. Looks like about 23 here in Springfield. Tomorrow, a high of only 29 in Rolla. But it looks like near 40 in Joplin with a high of about 35 here in Springfield. Again, winds will be gusty again tomorrow, at times gusting as high as 35 miles per hour. The forecast this weekend into the weekend, very tricky. We've got this cold air mass which is built into the eastern U.S. We're on the western fringes of that, and with clippers tracking overhead, we're going to see swings in temperature, and we're also going to see a wide range in temperatures across the area. So the pattern into the weekend, look for big temperature swings from day to day. Look for big temperature ranges across the Ozarks with the colder readings northeast, and it all could end with a chance for some snow possibly on Sunday. There's your 7-day forecast. Looks like a high of around 40 here in Springfield on Wednesday, maybe 42 on Thursday. Keep in mind, colder to the northeast. 52 on Friday before it gets cold again this weekend, and I'll be eyeing that snow potential as we work through the weekend into the weekend.
Again, bundle up out there once again tomorrow morning.
Yep. You'll have to dress in layers. More wind and more cold tomorrow.
Good to know. Viewers Club?
Our Viewers Club number for tonight is 130021, and our jackpot is at $300.
All right, Jamie, thanks. Daniel Shedd is up next in sports.
With the latest on injured Missouri State Bear. Plus,
I'm not taking responsibility on this one. Verizon got it wrong. Yes, not me.
We asked you what your favorite Super Bowl commercial was. That's in our timeout responses up next.
And now, Color 10 Sports with Daniel Shedd.
Well, if there's been one constant so far this season for the Missouri State basketball team, it's been injuries. In our Bear Nation report, Austin Reuter, Sean Roundtree, they've missed the bulk of the season, and then Cam Boone, Chris Kendricks, Dorian Williams have all missed games due to injuries. The latest casualty is Dorian Williams. The senior guard missed Saturday's trip to Evansville with a knee injury that he apparently suffered in the Bears' loss to Bradley. Missouri State has not released anything official about the injury, only saying that it's not considered to be season-ending. However, a timetable for his return has not been set. Missouri State coach Paul Lusk will speak to reporters about Williams' status tomorrow afternoon. Williams has started in 17 of 19 games, averaging 31 minutes, and he also leads that team in assists. And keeping pace with basketball, we take a trip to Glendale High School, where the Lady Falcons, hosting the Kickapoo Chiefs. Hannah Collins would get the Chiefs rolling early, draining a three from the near sideline. She would pose a threat all night, finishing the night with 18. Chiefs continue to score. Laura Veerkamp to Audrey Warren. That's good. Kickapoo was up 9-0 at the start of this one. Later, Glendale's Morgan Zimmerman would feed Hannah Pinkston on the drive. She finishes with the layup, but the Falcons could not keep pace, falling 76-27. Well, the Denver Broncos are NFL champions after upsetting the heavily favored Carolina Panthers in last night's Super Bowl 50. That game was expected to be a quarterback battle, and it turned into a defensive showcase. It was 3-0 when Von Miller off the edge strips Carolina's Cam Newton off the ball. It ends up in the end zone where Malik Jackson lands on it for the touchdown to make it 10-0 Denver. The Broncos would never look back after that. In the fourth quarter, Miller would do it again, another strip of the ball. This time T.J. Ward recovers, and the Broncos would score a few plays later as Peyton Manning rides off into sunset, winner of the Super Bowl, 24-10. Von Miller comes home with your Super Bowl MVP.
I'm so proud of my guys. It's been every last one of the guys in the locker room that has got me to this moment right here. Could have gave up on me, but he kept pushing and kept being the type of guys that they are in the locker room. I'm very, very appreciative of them. I'm happy for Bronco Nation. We're going to celebrate this one all summer. This game was much like this season has been. We really tested our toughness, our resilience, our unselfishness, and so it's only fitting it kind of turned out that way. And great bunch of teammates, great bunch of guys I got to play with, and I just feel very, very grateful.
And now for a response for your timeout. At 6 o'clock, Dan talked about Super Bowl commercials. He went home sick, so I'm taking us to the end of break. He argued that there were very few good commercials this year and a bunch of bad or subpar ones, and I'd have to agree. Although the Pumpy Monkey Baby had the sports department singing all afternoon, we weren't too fond of these disturbing images. Last year's Dancing in the Cabin, if you remember, was much better for the energy drink Kickstarter. Our favorites were the Dachshunds, of course, running to the ketchup packets. And, of course, T-Mobile's efforts with both Steve Harvey and Drake calling on that cell phone. Here's a look at what you guys had to say. Cindy wrote in on Facebook saying, my favorite was the Wiener Dog one. There you go, Jen. Very disappointed with the Clydesdale one. And I'd have to agree. I wanted to see some puppies and young horses running around, too, for Budweiser. Russ agreed with us, saying that his favorites were Heinz and that they weren't as good as he had hoped for. Denver winning at the end was the best. Leanne wrote to us on Facebook with some maternity love, saying that this may just be because I'm 7 weeks away from my baby's due date, but I actually snorted laughing when I saw that Doritos commercial, of course, with the ultrasound. Bob wrote in on email agreeing with Leanne. I thought the commercials were weak and not that imaginative. The best Budweiser commercial cost them nothing. Peyton Manning was their piss man. Of course, the Doritos ultrasound was the best. What we really need is a return of the Miller Lite commercial. Those were classic. Jen, I know you're a huge fan of the Dachshunds. You warned us earlier in the week that it was coming.
The Heinz commercial is by far my favorite. In the past, though, I've always loved the Doritos commercials.
Yes,
my favorite one, I can't even remember, maybe it's 10 years ago, but it's the Checkout Girl. You'll have to go see it. It cracks me up. I giggle every time I watch it.
YouTube that one. They were kind of okay. There was like an Anthony Hopkins one that was decent.
It was.
And, of course, the whole parody on Super Bowl babies that the NFL actually put out.
It was cute.
That was cute, you know.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
All right, Daniel, thanks.
All right, Daniel, thanks. Jamie's up next. We'll find out which one his is.
Jamie, did you have a favorite commercial? You didn't watch much of the game.
I was in here working last night.
We were in there watching the game. Jamie was working last night.
I was working too.
I did walk out briefly, just long enough to get some of the barbecue that was brought in.
Yeah,
so I appreciated that.
Well, we needed some warmth in our tummies today because it was very cold out there.
Well, I said it last night for today, dress in layers, and that stands for tomorrow too. Even though we're going to get sun back tomorrow, it's still going to be cold and it's still going to be windy.
All right, good to know ahead of time. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Bundle up.
Good night.